So hello gamers and welcome back to another test place video. We're back in the test place and we're going to talk about the buffed guns now. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, make sure to watch that as well. In that video I talked about all the guns that got nerfed, and today we're going to be talking about some of the guns that got buffed, as well as guns that were rebalanced in more of a positive way. I'll explain that once I get to some of those guns. Let's talk about the two that will actually change the meta by so much. The first one is the AWS, or AWS, as I like to call it. A lot of people don't like me calling it the AWS. It is the AWS. It is not the AWS, it is the AWS. But do you call it the AWM? Well, maybe you do, but do you call it the AWP instead of the OP? Get real, dude. It's the OP, it's the AWS, and it's the ON. And I don't care, and I'm gonna call them that. Anyways, this gun actually shot a little bit faster than the OM. However, it didn't really shoot super fast. It shot at 55 RPM, but now it has 65, which makes it just a really fast firing sniper rifle now. I've wanted a buff on this gun in a very long time. However, they didn't actually buff it in the way that I wanted them to, but this is a great way. This is actually probably better, because my idea was to increase the velocity or increase the torso kill range and stuff, but that wouldn't actually make the gun like more of its own thing. It would just make it like the other snipers. Now it still doesn't have a very good torso kill range and has awful velocity, but it shoots really fast and has a 10-round mag. So honestly, it's up there, dude. It's actually one of the better snipers now because it shoots faster than the Remington 700, which just makes it like 65 RPM is like, it is really fast. Even if you can't one tap as far, you're going to be able to hit follow-up shots really easily. Obviously, velocity is pretty bad, but it shoots so fast, you can correct for velocity faster. So it should be just overall a great CQC option. And then we have the OM buff. The OM got exactly the same buff. It got its RPM increased by 10, which is quite a bit. However, this gun actually had less to begin with, so you only have 60 RPM instead of 65. A lot of people don't know that. The OM and the OS actually have a different RPM. Even before the changes, they had a different RPM. It's just, it was kind of negligible before, but 60 to 65 feels like more than 50 to 55, which makes no sense because percentage wise it's a bigger difference. So this doesn't really shoot as fast, but it still shoots very fast, torso kills farther, has better velocity. The only advantage of the OS is obviously the bigger magazine, a little bit higher RPM, and the fact it's suppressed, but other than that, it's kind of just better to use this one. And yeah, dude, I made a video, a clips video, if you want to see it, it's in the top right, with this gun, and I really popped off in that video. I think you're going to see the OM way more after these changes, and maybe even the OS, but like, the OM I think is the shining one here. The OM was actually pretty good to begin with. It just wasn't really good enough. Like, it didn't have really high velocity, or really far torso kill range, or really high RPM, or really big magazine or anything. The OP conversion is still pretty trash. I don't really recommend it. It's basically an extended mag that makes the gun like way less powerful. I just don't recommend it, holy. But yeah, as a fan of these guns to begin with, I think these are great changes, and they might not even need any more changes after this. In my opinion, the Remington 700 still beats this out, but it's still a great gun. It's still got some nice upsides. The next buff I wanted to talk about was on the Obrez. I've talked about how the Obrez is actually really good, and they did some pretty crazy changes to it. First off, it has awful velocity now, just horrible, and less pen, and it actually does less damage and has less of a torso multi, and it has worse ranges. So is this a nerf? Not necessarily, because it has been rebalanced, because there are some huge upsides of this, and I feel like overall it's a better gun because that's awesome, dude. Front post increases your velocity by 26.24. Incredible increase, dude. So basically, this gun actually shoots faster now. It has 90 RPM. That is actually ridiculous. And the biggest thing, if you guys watch my video about forgotten gun in every category, I'll put that in the top right if I remember to. Basically, the Obrez was the other gun. The biggest thing about this gun is that it has aim choke like a shotgun. And I talked about in that video how having aim choke on a gun doesn't really make it skill-based. It just makes it annoying and have RNG, where basically, if you shoot at somebody, you're not going to always hit them. Pretty annoying feature. However, they made it so it doesn't have choke anymore. Now this gun actually shoots exactly where you want it to every single time, which means long barrel isn't as necessary, but long barrel does increase your penetration depth and your velocity by quite a bit, but you have some pretty annoying downsides to like aim speed and walk speed, and you can have an extended mag or 410, which is not that good. Basically a shotgun conversion. 8mm actually torso kills, but not very far, only 30 studs. Without long barrel, it's 60 studs, so I do recommend if you're gonna run 8mm, do not run long barrel on it. Let's try 8mm though. To put it simply, it does a lot less damage, but it doesn't have shotgun spread anymore, so this is overall a great change. You can get a 60 stud torso kill range with 8mm, and it has a ton of recoil, as you can see, even without 8mm, but if you run the stock, it removes the recoil by quite a bit, so it actually makes the stock like pretty nice. Although the stock is not really necessary, if you like the lower recoil, it is recommended, because wow, this is a lot. Overall, this gun has great balancing now. Honestly, it's a lot better, even though it's got some pretty huge downsides on it now, and overall, it's positive for this gun, so I'm putting it in this version of the video. Next up, we have a pretty huge change on 5.56 on the TCR. The TCR with 5.56 wasn't really that good. Objectively, relatively speaking, it was good because it fired so fast, but the damage was pretty awful. So they increased it from like 38 to 23 to 40 to 30. So now it's actually like easily a lot more damage. I feel like this could be kind of overpowered with an auto clicker. So I don't know if this is gonna need its RPM tweak, because 800 RPM, this recoil and like a 2-shot head, 4-shot all ranges, almost a 3-shot torso all ranges seems a little bit too much. But for people like me who don't use an auto clicker, it's gonna be pretty balanced and a lot better than it was before, because before, man, this gun was kind of awful. It just did air damage like a 3 to a 5 shot, and it was semi-auto to boot. So people like me with bad CPS, they're not going to be able to like pop off with this gun. So it might be overpowered, but we will see. Overall, this is definitely a buff to the gun. As you know from my other video, if you watched it, ECR 556 got a nerf. So if you want to watch that video because you haven't yet, go check that out. ECR 556 is way worse than it was before. But yeah, this is definitely better, which is funny because one 556 got nerfed and the other one got buffed. Another secondary that got a buff is GSP Rat Shot. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I was the one who got this conversion buff. Now it should be able to one-shot limb. Still shoots really awfully slow, but it should be a little bit better. Basically, it does 15 times 7 to 5 times 7, so awful damage at range. And instead of having like a crazy headshot multi, it has like a really tiny headshot multi. So theoretically, if every pellet hits, it will one-shot to the body, a little bit farther to the torso, and a little bit farther to the head. Keep in mind though, if you miss even one of the 7 pellets, it will not one-shot. So it is pretty balanced, and the drop is heavy. Like even if every single pellet hits the head in range, it'll probably do about 40 with every pellet hitting the head. Is GSP Rat Shot going to be like in the meta or anything? No, it's not even going to be really that good, but it's not going to be completely awful because bigger mag, more damage. I'm really happy that they actually took my advice and buffed it, because before it was pretty awful. You could only kill if every single pellet hit the torso and only to like 30 studs or something. Our next buff is basically just new conversions. I thought I'd just mention this for a second. Obviously there's 12.7 and 7.62 by 39. I talked about this on stream, didn't make a video on it because every single other Phantom Forces YouTuber in existence made a video about these. Basically an M3A1 with more damage for the 12.7 conversion, but shoots slower and has like a 10-round mag and an awful reload. I really do like 12.7 conversion. I don't know if it's a 50 cal. People keep saying that, but it could be, I guess. It does 1-shot headshot to a decent range and 2-shot limb, but it does awful damage at range, but it has really good damage ranges. So 7.62 is basically just big mag, no damage. Not a very cool conversion, but it's fine. Our next buff is 2 guns I can talk about in tandem. It's Steven's DB and Sawed-Off. Steven's DB got 1 change. Sawed-Off got more pellets, a faster reload, a bunch of different stuff. Overall, it's kind of a nerf, but also kind of a rebalance to the gun. But Steven's got 1 change, which is now I can put the gun on burst even with a choke. Since all the shotguns got nerfed, this shouldn't be too crazy, but it will still one-shot very far. It might be a little bit annoying, but now that weird feature where you got an automatic mode with a choke is gone, which I feel like is fine because now you can run slugs and paradox choke and actually use the burst. But yeah, Steven's burst might be back, baby. Might be meta again. I'm not 100% sure. It wasn't really meta to begin with because statistically, let's be real, Steven's DB is not the best shotgun in the game. It does one-shot pretty far, but now it does like awful damage at range. So it does like 10 damage with full choke. So I would not be too worried about this being overpowered. Yes, theoretically, if you burst, you will be able to one-shot all ranges, but you'd have to hit about 13 pellets or something. It might not happen, so it's fine. A gun that got a pretty big buff is Saiga 953. Nobody actually really uses it, but this is the Saiga 953. Before, it was basically just an SVDS that couldn't torso kill, and that's about it. It's basically just that. Now, it still can't torso kill. However, it does one-shot headshot at any range, I believe. Yes, it does one-shot headshot at any range. However, it does have 105 RPM instead of having like 60 before. Oh my. So basically, this is like a mix between a DMR and a headshot gun. Kind of like an SL9 where like the damage isn't that great, but I think it can 2-shot limb all ranges. It doesn't shoot super fast, but like it could be good for like headshotting, and the velocity is not amazing, but it's better than like the SL9. I don't think a lot of people are going to be using it, but it is a buff. It is like a increase to the gun's actual skill and like maybe how good it is, but let's be real, nobody really uses Saiga 953. It's just a little bit better now. Other than that, full auto conversion did get a nerf. It does actually increase your recoil instead of just your camera recoil now. Another gun that got a buff is the Steyr Scout. It has slightly better handling now and a faster reload time. Like you can 100% tell, like if you watched my video from before on this gun with this setup, you know the reload time was not this good, and that's pretty nice, but it also has a faster aiming speed. You probably can't tell because it only got increased by 1 from like 15 to 16. Handling is still weirdly bad. Not like incredibly bad, but still like it just doesn't feel like it should be this slow. Other than that though, it is like a lot better. Like you will reload faster, and also there is a new conversion, which is kind of a buff to the gun, but we'll talk about that in just a second. I don't know why more people use it, probably because it's not the gun that you use if you can't hit headshots. Like if you can hit headshots, it's actually such a good gun though. Okay, so they were gonna add a conversion that added a torso kill but does 19 minimum damage. Apparently they haven't added it yet as of recording this, so basically it gives you like a slight torso kill of like 50 studs studs, but it does like 19 minimum damage, so you only can hit headshots after that. It's like a decent conversion probably. I don't know, I don't actually get to use it because it's not in the game yet, but yeah. The only other thing I can mention is that 7.62 on this gun does exist. It has decent damage ranges, does 30.99 to 20. This is actually my setup back when I used to use this gun, except for, you know, I didn't use 7.62 because it wasn't in the game. It has muzzle brake though. Ooh. Recoil isn't that good, but it does have the spam burst still, or the hyper burst or whatever. Except I can't use the hyper burst because this gun used to have the hyper burst and then they kind of removed it. And it was like the first AK-12 to get that removed. And I was so angry because it was the only one I used. Like, I can't use it anymore. But yeah, now it has a 50 round conversion and just... it shoots for so long. And it has like the same reload as the 10 round conversion, which sucks because, Stylus, if you're watching, please make like the 12.7 conversion have a faster reload. Let's take a look at the other 10 round guns. Okay, that's the reload of that one. You're probably like, well, it does one-shot headshot, so that's why it's better. You really did forget about this, did you? That's the reload of this one. Still faster. That's the default reload. Way faster. It does about the same max damage, better minimum damage by like 2 times. Headshot kills probably farther, fires faster, reloads faster. I think they forgot the SVU auto exists. Like, did they just forget it existed? Doesn't mean I don't like the conversion, I do. Just saying SVU auto does exist. So don't say it's overpowered. Please make the reload time faster on that conversion. Other than that, it's pretty cool. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and sub, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.